Hey, hello, listeners. My name is Louis May, and welcome to The Third Coin. I'm here today with Grant Cermak, and we are going to just discuss some topics in the crypto market, in the blockchain world. Once again, our show is about everything in the past of blockchain, everything that's currently taking place in the present, and what is the future of this technology in this industry. So today, I'm just going to run through some quick opinions and ideas that we've been seeing out on the interweb, and we're going to talk about them because I think these are valid topics that we have some opinion about, and our opinion needs to be shared with the world because it's valid. So Grant, how's it going today?
No, things are interesting in the world of crypto. We're watching all kinds of different movements, up, down, inflows, outflows. So I'm keenly kind of watching the divergence between Ethereum and Bitcoin at the moment. So it's interesting when these things don't directly track. I'm ever watchful of when things move in opposite directions. Loopring, I'm keeping an eye on too. It's kind of very interesting to see that playing out and how it being driven from GameStop and the rumors around that. Yeah, interesting stuff happening at the moment. So I'm keeping an eye on all those things.
Okay, cool. And once again, not even close to an expert at this industry or anything or this tech, but I do know enough to know that up to this point, Bitcoin and Ethereum have made their runs or gone in directions that are similar to each other and coincide with each other. And you're saying that they are possibly diverging. What's going on with that?
It's hard to really know what's going on. You can watch from the sideline and see when these things occur. I think it's interesting when they do. When all of crypto does the exact same thing, it tracks exactly because Bitcoin's having a run up. So all crypto rises, Bitcoin rises. To me, I don't understand why that would particularly be the case, but it seems like it's happened quite a bit. But now I think coins really find their own footing when they don't track each other. They do their own thing. They move in opposite directions. They move whenever they move according to what's happening in their particular space. I don't know much more to say about it other than that, just that it is happening and it's interesting when it does. I think to me that says that those markets are starting to stand on their own and therefore are no longer tied to the hip. They're not the same thing. I think if they do track, they basically are the same thing. When they don't, that's evidence that they're no longer the same thing. So I think Ethereum is starting to really find its own foot, and it's definitely moving in a different direction than what Bitcoin
and the reason I'm smiling so much is because when we watch this first video, you'll probably get a little chuckle too, because it's maybe coincidence, maybe not, that it happens to be about Ethereum. Let me share my screen here. And let's check out this thing. I'm going to make sure I share the sound so you can hear it. Let me know if you can't.
So Ethereum is a piece of crap program that only has value because it is inefficient. If it was efficient, it would actually lose all its value. Basically, high gas fees cause the price of Ethereum to go up because you need to buy more Ethereum in order to cash out. And I keep thinking about this. I keep thinking, what if there was a bank run on NFTs and Ethereum? You could literally see the gas fee get so high that the price of Ethereum would jump up to $1 million a coin. I'm not exaggerating. It could jump up to $1 million a coin. And you'd have all these people trapped in NFTs and trapped in Ethereum because they can't afford the gas fee to switch it over to a server that will change it into USD. So you'd see this giant spike up to $1 million and then it would just crash to zero. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I can't think of an institution where something like that hasn't happened at least once. And because of how Ethereum is programmed, it seems like it has to happen once.
Valid point by that gentleman.
Million seems odd to me, but yes, high gas fees do drive Ethereum into very bizarre places. And it's similar to things that you and I have talked about before, which is what are blockchains? They're shitty databases that have high latency, and Ethereum is one of the worst. So yes, I would agree. The fundamental things he's pointing out about why this coin is very not functional and not interesting to work with from a technology perspective. It has momentum, and momentum counts for a lot. But as far as it being anything, I would agree. Like, I think a lot of people are going to find their money trapped there and wish that it wasn't.
And so as I speak to you guys and learn more and more about this, what I'm from my outside point of view, it's like blockchain technology is new, but that doesn't mean it's well developed. Is that a fair statement?
I'm not sure about that. The idea is that the technology was built to do a particular thing, and there were ideas about how things could work and scale. I just don't know that it's actually played out, and we found that certain types of things just don't work the way that they had hoped. There's like a finance function, I think it's called a reverse auction, which is how gas fees are determined. It says, hey, you're bidding on this space that's available within a particular chain. And that reverse auction thing just didn't end up working out the way that they had hoped. So it's the difference between theory and practice, and how does this end up working in the long run? So it's hard to know how things will work moving forward. And when the price of Ethereum is just what it is, then gas prices just track with it, because there's just only so much compute available. I just don't know that anybody anticipated there being this many projects. The idea that this could be the world's computer, that didn't work. It's not the world's computer.
Ah, okay. So there's a flaw. So I don't know if this is on subject or off, but it just alludes to something I've thought of in ways that I've tried to explain it to other people, is that it's called what is it? It's a network of people that all agree on something. What is the term? Consensus. And so to me, it's like a consensus of what is true or what is false, right? Like, it's every block that comes out is everybody saying, or finally the record keeping, that all of these transactions, they are true and valid. Is that a fair way of thinking about this, as far as the people coming together and just all looking at it and agreeing?
It's a human way of thinking about it. These consensus mechanisms are more technology driven. They're about how the technology and the software can come to a means of agreeing on what is the record, what is the statement of record. These are difficult concepts.
Okay, but I guess what I missed there was the peer-to-peer addition to that consensus. Like, it's peer-to-peer, so while you're saying it's a computerized version of that, it still means nothing if there's only one human user on that chain. This is
a tricky thing. It's not like humans that are really doing any of this kind of stuff. It's computers and software programs that are trying to do this. I think the way to wrap your head around it is centralization was the thing. When I have the database and I'm in control of it, there is no consensus that's needed, because I am saying what the record should be and I'm in control of it, and I'm not allowing for outside things to sort of change that in a way that isn't within the scope of what I had anticipated. There's no real
check and balance in a centralized system,
because there's no need for it. Now, when you go to peer-to-peer and you're allowing for distributed mutation, distributed rights, you have to have some way to say this is valid and this is something that should be there or not. And that's what consensus is all about. It's about saying, sort of, what is the next record supposed to look like, or how would I allow for the state of this system to move from a previous state to a current state, and what is the mechanism for doing that?
Okay. And so, like, to me, some of the real world uses, and once again, I can't wrap my head around this whole thing yet, and I'm not supposed to. I'm not a developer and I'm new to crypto, but it seems like some of the real world uses would be like other things that humans need to determine whether or not they're true or false. For example, I've heard the idea of NFTs being also used to transact a home purchase that is normally requires an attorney with an escrow fund, because neither person wants to give up their asset until they know that the other person has allowed access and transfer of their agreed asset. So it's like, how do we do that? Once somebody has always got the chicken has to lay the egg, somebody has to come first. That's where an attorney and escrow comes in. But this is bringing in the opportunity for those types of exchanges to take place because of a computer.
So these things are possible, and they're possible in different ways. And like the history of technology, we moved from handshakes and honor to paper contracts that were stored in certain spots to stuff like DocuSign, where these things are recorded. We still use government entities as a matter, or like final registrar
of law
record.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
and then registers. Okay.
Yep. So the next evolution is to take this out of the hands of any government entity and put it into a place that sort of crosses the boundary of all things, right? And that's where blockchain asset tokenization comes into play. This is where you can take and represent something on chain that exists outside of the chain, and then you have this custody, right? So somebody brings something on chain for the first time, and then when you transfer ownership of that, it conveys ownership of the thing in reality, right? So this piece of land or this stock or whatever, that it's represented on the blockchain, and that blockchain representation is the ownership of that physical thing. So that's what conveys the ownership. Right now,
way more clear now. Once you compared it to a county register, a county record keeping of titles and deeds, it's taking that government that centralization away and turning it to peer-to-peer.
And so now what you have to say is, what is the mechanisms by which we would allow for that to change hands or do something? And this is where the whole cryptography piece of it comes into play. You have some ability to do something that cannot be faked. It's verifiable. It's, in a sense, strong, that only the right person should be able to do that kind of operation.
Okay. In some ways, it can be way more flawless than many of the systems we can't have currently in place.
In theory, yes. In practice, this is a little trickier to pull off, because now you have this thing that a human has to keep track of and has to be good about, like, ensuring that they don't lose. And this is where people get hacked or lose their coins or whatever happens. It's like, you're supposed to keep track of this like super secret important thing, and humans are not good at doing that. So that's where then you keep going back to some centralization or
paying
custody
somebody else to do that part. Like, instead of paying somebody to hold the title, now you're just going to pay somebody to hold the key to the title, and you're back to where you were, which is already taking place.
But what this allows you to do is it keeps it from being countered. That's the thing that's not as easy to prevent in the paper world, right? To think about ways that you could possibly subvert things that work. Gosh, after having
signature fakers and stuff like that, fake a signature,
all kinds of different scams. But like, just if you think about how some things occur in work, and these are not obvious because most people will never interact with these systems. Yeah. When a house finally gets its mortgage paid off, I don't know how many people have ever been through that, but like, when you finally get the lien on your house removed, it is a very bizarre process under which that actually occurs. And it is so outdated and so old and so like ripe for abuse that I'm surprised that it doesn't happen on a wholesale basis yet.
Because that process, like, nobody even understands most of their mortgage transaction, or the difference between their deed and their title and their lien and all
mortgages. Mortgages are long-term things. They live for a very long period of time. And a lot of times, like, they don't even ever go away. Like, they get rolled or refinanced or whatever. So the process of closing out a mortgage, most people will never experience it.
Okay, that's interesting. So actually, this is funny because this is a segue. I don't know that this is going to bring up any viewpoints, but it's an interesting statement that I agree with. I thought I'd just somebody else's view. He's like a person on our show. So let's watch this next video.
Many people think that cryptocurrencies are not a real thing and not a great asset category. What is it about cryptocurrencies that you think makes it an enduring investment proposition? We view it as fundamentally a technological transformation. So there's a fundamental technological breakthrough that has actually happened, and it's an area of computer science called distributed consensus. So it's the ability for a lot of basically people and software on the internet to be able to form trust relationships in an untrusted environment. Money is one application of being able to have distributed consensus, but it's only one of those applications. There are many other applications, many other things that people are going to be able to do with this technology, and many of the smartest people in computer science are going into this field, and they're pushing it forward at a really rapid rate. So to us, it looks like it's just the 8th or 9th fundamental architecture change, breakthrough, technological transformation happening in the tech industry. And we take it very seriously because of that.
Nothing new there. He's just an eloquent gentleman that agrees with kind of what we agree with.
It's hard to argue with that guy. I mean, one of the most successful investors of our time. I would agree with most of what he said. Yes, absolutely. He's spot on. This this technology has the ability to revolutionize some of the most important industries, which have not been revolutionized. Stock trading, asset tokenization, these things are huge. Finance, money, they're literally like, we have not touched this kinds of technology in a very long time.
Kept by the billionaires and the trillionaires of the world, and for whatever reason, and nobody else has had any say in how those things work.
Those structures and systems which have existed have their own flaws, which have been exploited by various individuals to their quite strong gain and to the loss of many others. Yes, I believe that this sort of revolution is not necessarily like a thing that is going to enable the masses, but it will change how we do it. I don't know that it's necessarily going to help the rank and file or like the most of the people on the planet, but it will change the game on how it's done, because this is the right way to do it. Honestly, if you start looking at like how you would actually do this, if you were to, with all the current math and science that we have on how to do this kind of thing, this is how you would do it. There's no, like, it becomes so obvious, like doing it in a trustless way in a distributed fashion. That's the right way to do it, because otherwise he who controls the centralized system can corrupt it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I want to do this show, is because, like, even though most people probably won't get themselves in the position to take advantage of this, they're going to need to know about it, because otherwise the people who are in the position to utilize this tech are going to take advantage of them. And so to me, it's my little bit of altruism is to share this information with the world so that people can at least be aware of what's going on and protect themselves. Knowledge is...
So it's the next phase of digitization. It is largely akin to, I remember when I was a kid, there was a card, and that may date me, but I remember looking through the card catalog and trying to find a book on the bookshelf. And the whole idea of being able to go into a library or any digital knowledge system and be able to find things in a reasonable fashion. If you are of a certain age, then you know what it was like before we had these things.
I didn't even learn how to use the card catalog well until like my mid-30s. Right before they stopped, like, right as it was getting digitized, and you could also do a search, but then you had to use the card, use that in combination with the actual old catalog system to go get your book.
It's not that dissimilar to things that we're working with right now. As the card catalog was to like finding information in the digital age, it's similar to trading stocks or trading land or doing other types of asset tokenization and asset ownership, is to like where blockchain is moving right now along with money. It's a similar thing. Like we're still in like the card catalog transition phase from libraries. It's a similar thing. We are right now moving ourselves into digital asset tracking, and it's what all of this technology really is built to do. It doesn't really do anything else, but it does that.
Okay, so now we're going to move away, and I'm going to bring on this young woman who's, hey, found some of her power, found some of her way to, etch out a living in this world, which is, hey, difficult enough, and more power to her. So I don't want to take anything away from this woman, but I do like her point of view. And I think it'll bring up a little bit of a conversation for you and I to discuss and give our opinions of why we maybe feel differently than say she does, or against not what she's doing. Because once again, I don't want to single out any individual, but this is happening and it's rampant right now, and let's just take a look.
I've been getting so many questions about how I make my NFTs, so I'm going to do a quick breakdown of the entire process. So let me show you. The first step is to create a wallet that supports Solana NFTs. So go to phantom.app, add the extension to your browser. Then it takes you through just a simple process to make a wallet. And then you need Sol, the currency in that wallet, to pay the gas fees to actually make your NFT. So to do that, go to Coinbase, sign up, and then complete that whole verification process. So then you can use USD to buy Sol, the cryptocurrency, which then you can send over to that wallet. So you've got your wallet with some Sol in it. So now we're going to head over to solsea.io. You're going to connect your wallet and make an account. Now the fun part. Let's create an NFT. So I'm going to be minting a 1-of-1 of this digital drawing I did of the naked noodle girl. And the process is really simple. So let me show you. Create NFT, then you're going to upload a static preview, the actual artwork,
that's why she can't show it.
Then fill out the descriptive elements, then click Mint NFT. Approve the transaction. Also, did you see that it was less than a cent? So cheap. Then approve the mint. Again, less than a cent. Yay, we made an NFT. And there she is. So then tomorrow I'm going to make a video of actually listing the NFTs. So if you like it and you want this 101 drawing of a girl sitting in noodles, you can buy it. And also just to show the quick process of how to list on SoulSea. Okay, I hope that was helpful.
Hey, so, more power to her for making some money, blah, 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 capitalizing on a current trend. But that's why I brought that up, is because it's the perfect description of the current trend. Which...
I fucking hate NFTs, man. This shit is so stupid.
It's so, I don't hate her for making money doing what she's doing. What I hate is all of the real artists that have been struggling for the last 50 years, actually creating real art and not being able to sell it. And not to say her isn't real art, but she made the thing in 15 minutes, had zero pain involved in the creation of it. And the only reason she's making money is because most people don't understand what the hell an NFT is. And they're thinking that they're going to make money because everybody's greedy and wants to make money in a super easy way. And right now, somebody has said that NFTs are the way to do that.
When I say I hate NFTs, I want to be very clear about what I mean by this. Okay. I have no problem with anybody making money. If you can rook a rube, go for it,
Yep.
Like whatever. You can sell someone to somebody, and if they want it and you have it, fine, sell it. Yep. I have no problem with commerce, capitalism, or anything like that.
Yep.
I just personally don't have any interest in collecting these cards. I've collected cards in the past. I've collected different kinds of trading cards when I was younger. And some of them went up in value, and sometimes I sold them up, so it's like, if you want to collect cards or collect JPEGs, whatever you want to do, more power to it. In fact, I'm a strong believer in personal liberty. So it's like, hey, if you want to do something, buy something, you should be able to do it. When I say I don't like it, it's because I'm not that interested in it personally. Now, I think that there's a space for NFTs that are interesting. Really working with different kinds of companies that I think are doing interesting things in the NFT space. But this whole idea of creating like kind of crummy looking art JPEGs, stamping out 20 copies of it with minor color variations, and then saying it's worth $100, $200, $1,000 or whatever it is. I think that this is a lot of fraudulent stuff that's going on here. I don't think there's a real market and people are really buying these. I think that there's likely interesting gamesmanship that's happening here. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of bag holding.
Hopefully it's only wealthy people that are buying these things for ridiculous amounts of money.
I'm not sure
after
that
they've been ran up. And so it's only people with a bunch of money that lose money because they were speculating on stuff. But
but I've seen some speculation about what may actually be going on here. And it's that what's happening here is, if I want to create the illusion of value, I can do it fairly easy with blockchain, because there isn't a way to track the real flow of cash, right? Because these tokens can move around so easily that they don't necessarily because those transfers of cost don't incur a fee in themselves. Normally when you sell something, there's friction to it, and that friction creates some amount of desire to not.
It's the bid in the app.
Think about it like this: if you go buy a TV, you have to pay tax on the transaction, and there's like tax that goes all the way through it. And a lot of crypto, there's no tax. These things don't exist, or at least a lot of people are not paying the tax. And because they're not paying the tax, there's no friction, and that means that it's extremely easy to mint an NFT, sell it once, and then just transfer the funds back to the person who originally gave you the funds, and to make it look like this thing was sold for some amount of money when it never really got sold for any amount of money, and there's no real market for it whatsoever. To fake out the market and make these things look like they're going for high dollar values when they really aren't going for high dollar values. And to sort of back people who are creating this stuff and like how they're actually getting paid on the back end, when you investigate it, it's very scummy. It's not real. And if there were real artists that were really putting up their art and having like real collectors that were interested in getting access to that art, in a similar way to like digital, prints are produced. Like when I buy a piece of art, I know that I'm not getting ownership of the art. I'm buying a print, and maybe those prints are valuable because they're some limited
you
number,
get value because you're looking at it. Like, is somebody, not to hack on that girl right there, but nobody's going to take that thing and put it up on their wall.
Well,
maybe they will. You're right.
Maybe they will.
And art is in the eye of the beholder. So that's not fair of me to say. You're right.
It is. I mean, I could easily see someone wanting to like print that off or whatever. And honestly, the NFT doesn't help you with that at all. If you want that piece of art, she's already put it out there. It's available. Like, you can print it off on your wall and whatever. So if it's like, hey, I want to tip this person back, or I want to give them some money for creating this art, okay, there's a valid reason that you may want to do that. And I can totally understand that. I mean, I like to support the artists that produce things that I'm interested in, and I do that by buying their music or buying their art or buying their movies or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's totally fine to support art. And
that's another topic that I've been asking you about, and I still don't fully understand, is so she's got, and she was doing a good job. She was, I think, protecting it for some reason. I feel there was a nude woman in the middle of those noodles, some noodles, but maybe also I feel like she was kind of protecting the anonymity of that one piece of art so that we couldn't just print it off. When she puts that onto a marketplace, is that what you're talking about, at the point where we could, if we just liked it, we could just blow it up and take a screenshot of it, and now we own a picture of it too?
Yeah, well, yes.
And so maybe, but there are some mechanisms in place where I could only get a certain digital quality of it compared to a 6,000 by 6,000 pixel quality.
That's not how it works right now.
Well, there you go. Okay. So to me, that is mind-blowing that anybody would put value on the one that's purchased it through the NFT versus the one that I could just take a screenshot of and own as well.
It doesn't in any way convey any type of ownership. It's more like an NFT right now. It looks more like the receipt that gets printed for a transaction than anything else. It's more like a
literally
receipt.
Like you said, that you're just basically sponsoring the artist.
Yes, it's kind of like and that's even if you're giving money to the artist. Like if you buy it on the secondary market, that's even more dubious of what you're doing. Some markets have a mechanism that says every time these things transfer hands, that some amount goes back to the original artist, the person who minted it. So there's that. But buying a receipt for a good on the secondary market is it's beyond crazy. You don't own that.
Now there are some things like Gary Vee's VeeFriends NFTs that he produced. I mean, they were the simplest of digital drawings, but the person who possessed whatever that means, and I'm still questioning what it means, the person who possessed the one also has access to Gary Vee's annual keynote speech and conference that he's going to put on for the owners of these VeeFriends. So that's an actual.
So that's more like a ticket. Now, NFT ticketing is kind of an interesting space, because I think that this is one of those places where Ticketmaster better watch out, because it's going to be pretty easy to eat that lunch, right?
Okay.
Ticketmaster has had sort of this monopoly for a long time about, being able to control and make non-counterfeitable access to events. I would not be surprised to see that sort of become very easy.
Okay.
If you think about how easy it was for her to mint her NFTs, I don't see why any venue would let anybody mint their tickets for them anymore.
I mean, so the only thing bonus with Ticketmaster is you get their marketing right now. So for us to sit here and say that Ticketmaster is basically idiots if they're not working on turning into an NFT marketplace.
I don't know that will help them, because Ticketmaster, what is Ticketmaster marketing? They're not marketing the event. I mean,
no, they aren't.
Typically, when I find out about an event, I go to Ticketmaster, because that's where the event told me to go get the tickets.
Yeah, you're right.
I cared about the event, and I heard about the event largely not because I'm like at Ticketmaster's site learning about all the great shows that Ticketmaster.
No, they would like us to go there, but
yeah, but that's not how it works.
No, okay, good point.
I mean, if you even think about things that are in like my backyard, there's a huge space of venues and places that have shows, and I go straight to the venue to say, oh, I wonder what this like confluence of different venues have available for me in the next period of time. I don't go to their ticketing system. It's all then I go to their ticketing system to get the ticket. I think it would be easy in the extreme for that venue set to say, we're going to do our own ticketing, because when you go to the venue at the time, what do? You go to an app, you scan something.
So here we are. This episode is basically free business ideas from Grant Cermak. All you got to do is want to do this and come to Grant Cermak, and he'll build this out for you with his company or last. So good job, Grant.
I mean,
the last thing that Gary brought up is that, and I like, this is what the other part I wanted to get on board with, is you could create a ticket then. Like his idea was like, as a marketing cross way of transferring your product, you could say, I'm a pizza place. Whoever owns this ticket can get a pizza a day for as long as they want, or one pizza. This is a token for one pie per week, or whatever you wanted it to. I could make a token that says I will do a branding call, 1 2-hour branding call with any possessor of this token, 1 call a week. Right.
So we're blurring the lines onto what NFTs means. So a non-fungible token versus a token. To me, it sounds like
I'm using the words wrong.
They're minute differences.
Okay.
It's like we're using the same underlying technology. Thing is kind of unique. A ticket, because it's on a particular day at a particular seat, it sort of is non-fungible. Like one seat isn't as good as another if you have a seat. If you have a general admission to an event, it's not non-fungible. I mean, a general admission floor ticket, where you're just in a standing room at some, music event that you might go to, that's sort of blurs the line on fungible.
Oh, it's more like a general non-fungible token. So it's like, it is non-fungible of some sort in that you get admission, but it's also not a one-of-a-kind token in that it's first come first serve, or however they want to arrange it, and let you get your spot in that general admission area.
Right. Now, the thing that you just described, it's kind of, I almost don't view that really that much of like a non-fungible anything. It's very fungible. It's like anybody who has one of these sort of can at any time do the thing that we're talking about. And so it's kind of acts more like a digital coupon with some rights attached to it that are conveyed by whatever backed entity. And this is similar to what stable coins are. So it kind of looks more kind of like a stable coin, right? Because a stable coin is a representation of something that exists on chain. So it's like, if we're talking about like this token that says I can get a pizza anytime, it looks more like, being able to go to a redemption window and say, I want to trade my USDT for a US dollar, right? I can go somewhere because I have this thing, I get this thing.
Okay. Interesting. Hey man, this was a super interesting conversation. Went well. I loved our viewpoints. I liked hearing you take your stand against hating NFTs. I like it. So I think that was enough for today. I mean, this was an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit here with me, and I look forward to our next one.